is like a buddy comedy. Like one's like serious and gothic, and the other one's like a right cheery lad. There's an amazing there's so many amazing sequences in it, and like vivid characters. Like, because what constantly happens is he's telling a story as the main character, the Reverend Cherrycoke, and he's telling a story to his cousins.
Why is he called Cherrycoke?
All his characters have silly names.
Okay.
There's the Reverend Wicks Cherrycoke, Seaman Pig Bodine, all of them. There's not as many in this because obviously a lot of them are based on real characters. But yeah, this sort of restored his critical reputation. This novel is seen as being one of the definitive works of sort of 20th century literature. This one and Gravity's Rainbow are the two that are seen as the classics. A lot of the other ones have got mixed reviews, but this is like the most accessible and enjoyable one, and it's got a much better reputation than most of the other stuff he's done, just because it is so much more accessible, and it is like it is a buddy comedy crossed with a satire of slavery, crossed with a like novel about the early like definitive openings of America. It's just the most enjoyable, dense novel you could imagine. It's insane and like incredibly sad as well. Like there's a great bit where the novel's concerned as well about like people telling stories to each other. So Dixon and Mason sit down and like start talking about how Mason met his wife, the one who's died, and he's there. So Mason tells this ridiculous story about meeting her at the Gloucestershire Cheese Festival, and the inventor has created the world's largest cheese, and like Rebecca shoves Mason away at the last minute to save him from this cheese, and that's how they meet, is how he says. And then it's...
Oh, is that the festival will have a rolled cheese down the hill?
Yeah. So this guy's invented like a 300-foot long cheese, and like roll it down the hill, and then it's about to kill Mason, and then like Rebecca pushes him away. But then it turns out in a couple chapters later that what happened was that Rebecca was just sold to like Mason and had never even seen Mason before meeting him. So it's constantly contrasting the like truth and lies, obviously making an implicit point about how America was made, and like, you know, it's basically trying to say history is as much like subjective and people just telling stories as it is reality. So there's all this, because all through the story of these two buddy comedy characters going across America, but like there's so, and like it constantly like brings up characters that obviously couldn't have existed, that are clearly embellishments.
Yeah.
Like there's a character who at night turns into a beaver, like a giant beaver. Like there's an amazing bit where they have to cut down a massive tree line in order to get the line. So they bet on who can win, this beaver or just this Swedishman called Stig, who's the best tree cutter that they've got in their thing. But then they're accused of cheating because he's only a beaver at night, and then there's like a lunar eclipse happens and he becomes the beaver and wins, and everyone says that Mason and Dixon cheated. It's like this absolutely amazing bit, but obviously like it's talking about how he's obviously embellished this story to tell his young children, Pliny and I can't remember the other one's name, Piff I think. It's just an incredible novel just for all the depths and things, and like just you could analyse it for weeks and still not get to the end of it, but it's just an entertaining, rollicking, brilliant story. Like what's really clever in all is that he's telling it first to just his cousins, and then other people join the room, and based on who's in the room that he's telling it to, the story changes.
Like Rashomon.
Like Rashomon.
Yeah.
But the content stays the same, but he like when the kids are in, it's more like an adventure novel. Like I'm trying to think now.
Like Famous Five. Or
like it's the daring do's of Mason and Dixon.
Yeah,
when the boys leave, it becomes more erotic or disturbing. And like all this different. There's an amazing bit in all where one of the cousins goes into his bedroom to read a rag called The Ghastly Fop, which is like a version of a pornography thing that again feeds into it, because it's like this really disturbing story of a woman who gets kidnapped and forced to wear a chastity belt and sold around America. And then what happens in all is that the character from that goes into the main storyline, making it again seem as if the main storyline can't be trusted, as if like the story he's telling again is all subjective with maybe hints of truth, but essentially it's just a story. Yeah. So all this incredible like that's a postmodernist technique, is that?
That's it. Yeah.
but it's all to the service of telling this brilliant story about about these two land surveyors, and it's so emotionally engaging as well. Because the main problem with a lot of postmodernist novels is they aren't emotionally engaging at all. They're like dry literary experiments, just so you can read them and you can admire them as a work of art.
It's a very postmodern piece of literature.
Yeah,
it's very self-aware. Yeah.
I really like what he's doing by not using the subjectives at all. It's all.
by rendering our inability to care. He makes a novel that's a commentary on post-21st century malaise.
Yes. Because the reason it's his best novel is just because it is more enjoyable and you can care more, and it's the kind of novel that it's just enjoyable. It's
as I always say,
yeah.
One thing I need to care.
Yeah.
If I don't care, then I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to read it. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to play it.
Yeah.
Which I don't think it's too much to ask.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
And that's what you'll get from Mason and Dixon. It's the ultimate novel that you could want, because you care the whole way through. It's got adventure, it's got laughs, it's got silly songs in it. People sing songs constantly. It's got hilarious satires of English pubs.
Oh, cool.
Because what happens is they go around from pub to pub exploring, and each pub is...
Well, like in America?
No, the first 225... the first
set in England?
It's set in England, yeah. Okay. It's like 3 books. You know how they do book 1?
Oh, right, yeah.
Book 1 is the pre-America thing, where you get to know the characters and all the backstory of why they got to America is established in book 1. Book 2 is America, which takes up 500 pages. And then you've got the epilogue, which is book 3, Last Voyage, which is the incredibly sad bit where Mason and Dixon have their last meetings and things. But yeah, I mean, it's packed full of jokes. It's got the reason why I think Gravity's Rainbow you can't care as much is just because the characters are more the whole thing is like a joke, and it's far more disturbing. But it's like a really warm novel. You feel for the people that are in it, and it feels like a mature work. He was like a really young man when he wrote V and Gravity's Rainbow. He was only in his late 20s. Apparently he can't remember writing Gravity's Rainbow.
No, I remember saying that,
because he's off his head on drugs a lot, and he can barely remember what's happened. And apparently he's tried to read it and can't understand it. He claims, but this feels much more like a mature summation of his work so far. It's got everything you could possibly want from a novel. It's an easy 10 out of 10. It's probably best. It's one of the best books I've ever read. It's just incredible. I can't believe that an achievement as good as this was made only in 1997. It's quite a recent novel, yeah.
Oh. Well, there you go.
But yeah, it feels like it took him 24 years or however long it was between Gravity's Rainbow to write. He made a novel in between, which is Vineland, which is seen as being lesser Pynchon. It's about again, that's got a silly name, isn't it? It's about Zoid Wheeler and his daughter Prairie, and it's about their relationship. But it's not half as good as Mason. Mason Dixon feels like a proper years and years worth of toll. Apparently, a lot of the jokes in it and all are based on real life. Apparently, what's it called? The guy with the kite and the key.
Oh yeah, who electrocuted himself and was it Ben Franklin?
Ben Franklin, yeah, he's the one who has. He actually did wear sunglasses and invented and was a quick inventor of it. But a lot of the stuff in it that's really heartwarming is also hilarious. There's an amazing bit where it's a flashback right at the end. They have their last meeting, and then there's a flashback to Dixon shoving electrodes in his ears and nose while Ben Franklin electrocutes him, which is a pastiche of Frankenstein. Because Franklin's got he's got a sidekick called Igor, and it's a piss take of that. But you've had their last meeting, this melancholic thing, and then because it does a flashback to their on their happiest moments, it's so much more affecting, and it's hilarious to boot as well. But yeah, just read Mason Dixon. It's a profound, brilliant novel. You'll care the whole way through, and it has real important things to say about history. And it's just stunningly written. Even the first line is just incredible. Snowballs have flown their arcs, starred the sides of outbuildings, as of cousins carried hats away into the brisk wind off Delaware. The sleds are brought in and their runners carefully dried and greased, shoes deposited in the back hall, a stockinged foot descent made upon the great kitchen in a powerful diver since morning, punctuated by the ringing lids of various boilers and stewing pots, fragrant with pie spices, peeled fruits, suet, heated sugar, the children having all upon the fly, among rhythmic slaps of butter and spoon, coaxed and stolen what they might, proceed, as upon each afternoon, all this snowy advent, to a comfortable room at the rear of the house, years since given over to their carefree assaults. What a writer! Every single line is as good as that. He writes in a really one of the things that some people might find off-putting is it's written in a sort of jokey version of what novels back then were written like.
Alright, yeah.
Like
so like that overly long descriptive passage about what the town looks like, and yeah. That's what Charles Dickens would write like, yeah.
And it's also like instead of spelling jokes J-O-K-E, and it's spelled J-O-A-K, and it's like a piss take of what writing was like then. But yeah, just incredible novel. Like, you won't find anything as deep or just as enjoyable, filled with such memorable, brilliant characters. It does everything a Pynchon novel should do, and gets rid of some of his
not to do.
yeah, and it gets rid of some of his worst excesses.
Oh, good.
I'm going to try and read all of his works again, because I now own all of them, and it's been a while since I read some of the earlier ones. I'm not looking forward to reading Gravity's Rainbow for a third time. There's that was my favourite sequence in literature, which is also the most disturbing I've ever read. There's a bit in that, right, where a German soldier, there's a German scientist who's Jewish. He gets like locked up for being Jewish, but they get him to work on these planes, and they get his daughter as well in a concentration camp. And every year they give him 1 day where he can spend with his daughter if he works on these on like the creation of these rockets. It's the saddest, most disturbing bit of literature you'll ever read. It's like 20 pages. It's like a short story right in the middle. It's amazing, but such a dense novel. I might actually tackle Inherent Vice next.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that needs a real assessment after that film has coloured a lot of people's opinion of it.
Mm-hmm.
The book is better than the film because it makes sense. Like there's a lot more of it. You can follow the narrative.
I think that film's problem is that I'm all up for like a crazy freewheeling plot.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's shock. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but for a Paul Thomas Anderson film, I don't think it's very well shot.
I like some of the shots.
I think all the conversation scenes are shot in the most boring way possible. Extreme close-up, shot, reverse shot. It's like, come on! Like, a character walks into a room, sits down, talks to another character. They both talk about a character we've not met before, or we've not met yet. Yeah. And it's like, it's shot in the most boring way possible. Like, come on, man! You made Boogie Nights!
You made The Master!
You made The Master and There Will Be Blood! You're a brilliant visual artist, and you're just doing close-up shot, reverse shots.
I'll admit that the film is flawed. Mm-hmm. I think it's actually gone down in my estimation since last time. I like the feeling of warmth that comes off of it. Like, there's a lot of scenes where it's like really nice and things, but yeah, I'll admit it as
2.5 hours.
Not enough for 2.5 hours. No, but yeah, you read Mason Dixon. See what you think. It
does sound pretty cool.
You'll learn to love Mason or Dixon.
And/or Dixon. Okay.
Yes. It's such a hauntingly great novel. Obviously a 10 out of 10. As I think this might be the best book I've ever read. It's just incredible. You may even become a fan of postmodern literature after this. But yeah, Mason and Dixon, read it, and I'll do Inherent Vice and talk about that after.
Alright.